before I start today's topic, which is going to be, well, Chris Wood and, funnily enough, Adama Traore a little bit again and a little bit of Magassa, can I please just remind you that Hammers Chat have a raffle. The link to the raffle is in the description below this video, basically underneath this screen. First prize is a signed Jarrod Bowen shirt. Second prize is a signed Jarrod Bowen captain's armband. Third prize is a signed programme from that historic night in Prague where West Ham won the Conference League. So 3 prizes. Tickets are a £5 each, but if you buy 2 tickets, you get the third ticket for free. Hopefully that makes sense. It closes on Sunday night, the raffle. So please go and check it out. It's a great way for you guys to support Hammers Chat and give yourself a chance to win a really good, well, not a really good prize, one of 3 really good prizes. Right, Chris Wood, shall we start? We'll start with him because we just did discuss Adama Traore yesterday. I just didn't expect, it was a bit of a joke when I discussed it yesterday. I did not expect so soon after the video us to be linked with a January raid for him. But let's deal with another January raid first, and that is for Chris Wood. This is totally predictable. I guess you're going to get this sort of stuff when a new manager joins a club, that he is going to be linked with some of the players who did really well for him previously. Look, when David Moyes went to Everton, straight away he was linked with a move for not Jarrod Bowen, that he would have been too expensive. He was linked for a move for Thomas Souček and Vladimir Coufal. Look, none of them happened, but you understood why the links were made almost immediately, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean it will happen, but let's take a little look at this. A lot is going to be revealed in tomorrow's game when we play Arsenal in terms of the striking situation. Because if we find again that Espírito Santo plays Nicholas Füllkrug pretty much for either all the game or most of it, I think that'll give us an early indication that perhaps he doesn't fancy any of his other options. He's had a week, pretty much a week on the training grounds, just under, with his players now. So you would think within that time there would have been some time for other players to impress him, you know, like Callum Marshall or Callum Wilson, something like that. I've always suspected that if we took Nuno on, that he was going to use Nicholas Füllkrug, because as I said, before Nuno even joined, he was the closest thing we had to Chris Wood. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Also, yesterday, if you remember, the striker that Pellegrino, who we were linked with yesterday, again, big, physical target man, very much a number 9, good in the air. There was no surprise that we were linked with him, and so it'd be no surprise at all if Nuno tries to replicate and tries to get the sort of players that served him so well and succeeded at Nottingham Forest. We'll get onto them in just a second, by the way. Now, I guess there's one thing looking for a player that's close to the style of Chris Wood. Of course, you can just go and try and buy Chris Wood if you want. And that's what West Ham have been linked with today. I think it's TBR Football, Tribal Football, have said that West Ham are going to try and move for him in January. Now, I've got to say, I believe half the story. I believe we are interested in Chris Wood. I don't believe for a second that Nottingham Forest would sell him in January, because Nottingham Forest are in a little bit of a pickle. Now, it's early days, but I can't have it both ways, right? If I'm going to turn around and say I'm a little bit fearful for West Ham, and I have been worrying about it, I can't then turn around and say, oh, Nottingham Forest are struggling, but don't worry, it's early in the season. You have to apply it both equally. Forest are in a little bit of a pickle. They've replaced Nuno, and I don't know how true this is. I cannot pretend for a moment to have sat up last night watching Nottingham Forest against Midtjylland. I just didn't. But they lost. I think it was Jesus played up front for Forest. Chris Wood came off the bench. He scored. I think the game was 3-2, and I believe Chris Wood scored an injury time penalty. But during the game, also this might be a scurrilous rumour, but during the game, apparently the Forest fans were singing Nuno's name. Now, I've just heard that. I'm not claiming that as fact at all. And if you're not a Forest fan watching this video, well, I was going to say, I don't know why you would. You probably would, because Chris Wood's probably going to be in the title. Nuno's, there's probably a picture of Chris Wood now. I haven't done the thumbnail yet, and Nuno Espírito Santo on the thumbnail. So I guess maybe some Nottingham Forest fans will watch this video. If you do and you didn't sing, Nuno's name last night, then I apologise. It's just what I've heard. What I do know is Ange is in a bit of a funny old situation. They've not won a game yet, although, listen to what the Forest fan was saying when he chatted with Gio the other night, that they quite like the style of football. It just hasn't sort of yielded any results yet. And certainly from what I could gather last night, just looking at the statistics, Nottingham Forest had lots of chances yesterday, lots of possession, and realistically, looked like they had every statistic you want apart from the goals, which is why they lost the game. But I think they're going to have it all their own way. Look, it's difficult. We know this as West Ham fans. It's difficult juggling European football and getting it right in the league. We don't just know it as West Ham. Ange knows this as well. He struggled with it last season. Obviously, Tottenham Hotspur won in Europe, won the Europos Cupos last year. Struggled in the league. It ain't easy, right? Moyes did it really, really well at West Ham, but it ain't easy. Ange is going to be under a little bit of pressure, and obviously Forest had a really good manager last season in Nuno, so you can understand that. But I think if they are going to struggle, why would they go and sell Chris Wood? I just don't think you would. He's guaranteed games, and I think there comes to a point where, well, if you're going to need somebody that's going to battle and try and get you out of this predicament, then he's the sort of player you're going to want. Let's not forget, it wasn't too long ago when Newcastle United bought. They were in a bit of a sticky situation, and they bought Chris Wood. Now, I think it was twofold. Did they need a striker? Yes, they did, but I think they also bought him from Burnley. I think he had a buyout clause at the time, and they bought him from Burnley to sort of ensure that Burnley got relegated. They were their rivals for relegation at the time, so I think they thought, well, we'll buy him and that will impact them and it will make us better. My point is, he is the sort of guy you're going to want around if you're going to have a relegation battle. I don't think we have a cat in hell's chance of signing this guy. And do you know what? He's 33 anyway. Personally, I'd like to think we'd be going for something else. But let's be fair, we do have a young team. I think we're now looking at the team. If you look at the team and some of the players on the pitch against Everton, and Magassa's 21, Fernandez at 21, Juff 20, Freddie Potts were 22. We got some young players on there as well. I think, is Crescencio Somerville 23? He's 24 at most. I don't think you're looking at West Ham now, and I'm pretty sure that stat doesn't apply anymore, that we are, the second oldest squad in the Premier League. Although Lucas Fabianski would have pushed that right up, but that doesn't count. That said, I still don't want us to go and sign 33-year-old. Want us to go and sign a young, energetic striker if we're going to go and do that. We've already got what's Fulcrum 32, 33 Wilson, I think. Look, I hope Marshall gets his chance. I'd like to see Marshall start against Arsenal tomorrow. But if that's not going to be Nuno's type of striker, then go and buy a young version of it. Whether that's Pellegrino or anybody else, I don't know. Which brings me to Adama Traore again. Yesterday it was a joke. I made a joke yesterday because after Gio's video with the Nottingham Forest fan, whose name escapes me, I do apologise. After his interview with him, he explained that one of the reasons that Nuno fell out with Marinakos, is that his name? Marinakos? Was because they didn't sign Adama Traore from Fulham. So I joked, because obviously I've always quite fancied Adama Traore at West Ham. Traditionally, not back in the day when he was young and fast. In fact, I think he's probably just old and fast now. So I was jokingly saying, I know we're going to be linked with him now. 3 hours after, maybe even less after I did my video, it was up on Hammer's News there. West Ham making a bid for Adama Traore. Oh, I know, this has happened quickly. I didn't know this, he's actually out of contract at Fulham at the end of the season. So I can see it happening. And by the way, I don't mind. I know I said this yesterday. I don't mind. Do I want him to start ahead of Jarrod Bowen? No, I don't. But if we need some legs, then I don't mind that at all. I do want young players and whatnot. And to be fair, he wouldn't get in the starting lineup at all. But if we are chasing a game and we need a little bit of pace on the break, I don't have a problem with Adama Traore. Bring it on. I do not mind it at all. So, it was more of a fanciful joke yesterday. And now there's actually maybe a little bit more truth to the story, perhaps. So, yeah, that could be interesting. I think that is far more likely, us getting Adama Traore either in January or thereafter, than us getting Chris Wood in January. I just think you'd be absolutely bonkers to. I said the same thing last January with us. If you remember, last January we were linked with because people didn't know that Thomas Souček was going to get really get used by Graham Potter. People didn't know at the time, and there was a load of stories going around at the time saying we should sell Thomas Souček. We've got this new manager coming in, Graham Potter. He's going to play progressive football. At the time, we didn't know. We didn't know if it was going to turn out right. Thomas Souček's not going to be used, and that was the case. So I said at the time, there's no way we should be selling Thomas Souček. We could be in a relegation scrap. If you're going to be in a relegation scrap, you're going to need him. And I think that was the case, very much so. I don't know whether Nuno will use Thomas Souček. My point is, just some players are going to be really, really useful if you're going to have a season of struggle. And I can't imagine Nottingham Forest selling Chris Wood for that precise reason. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. I've read your... Don't worry about Traore. I read loads from yesterday, so thank you very much for all your comments on that. I guess Chris Wood is what we're thinking. And I was going to... No, don't give me your predictions for the games. What I'll probably do is I'll probably grab someone else, maybe Michael or maybe me old man or somebody, and we'll do a little morning video for tomorrow. Before the game, and maybe we'll get your pre-match predictions on there. But 3 o'clock kickoff tomorrow, which should be interesting. Right, I'll catch up with you then.